Hey everybody, welcome back to the Steam 2-week dive where we take a look at all the new games coming out in the next 2 weeks on Steam that I bet you never heard of. I bet you didn't hear about them. I know, because they're not out yet. You guys don't pay attention to the fucking news. And I'm gonna try to edit this in like 3 hours tonight and have it out tonight. It's gonna be a miracle. Anyway, we're gonna cover first the games that are free weekend on the 31st of January, which is tomorrow, Friday. So let's start with this one. Ready? Well, first up, we have The Throne of Lies, the online game of deceit. Now, everyone has that friend in their group of friends who tries to invite people over on a Friday night and said, hey, I got this great card game. Everyone's gonna love it. And so you get a bunch of people together and he's like, oh, by the way, it's werewolf. And you're like, that ain't it. That ain't it, chief. This is basically the online version of that, so you can, for some reason, play that online. I don't know. I really can't stand Werewolf and Mafia and Town of Salem and all those games. I just don't get it. But that's fine. You can play it online for free in the next couple days if you really want to, and then buy it on sale for 60% off at $4. Now let's go into those games on the next 2 weeks. We're looking at everything through the 13th of February. Here we go. Boom. Another clap. I got a list here. Hold on. Oh, this is a big fucking list. Oh, why did I think this was a good idea? Oh no, and these are all out of order. Fuck. Okay, so let's start with the 30th of January, which is today. The 30th of January, which is today. Just in case you didn't, it's fine. You know what? 30th of January. First up, we have Bookbound Brigade, which is a platforming, like an adventure platforming game where you have a bunch of ridiculous toon characters who all kind of move as a group, and you can stack them in different formations in order to tackle the various challenges of each level. So you may you may just create a totem pole of 7 people stacked on top of each other to reach something really high, or group together in order to fit onto a platform that you need to do something with, or roll around like the Kirby where you turn into the wheel. You know, when you eat the wheel as Kirby and you zoom around, you do all that shit. It's really interesting looking, and I've never seen anything quite like this besides maybe Little King's Story, but you couldn't, you know, mash all your Little King's people together to make a weird unit, so that's unique. Next up is a game called Not for Broadcast. Now, I had covered this in a previous Lost on Steam. If you didn't see it, it's somewhere down below in the links. You can check it out. I did an easy run of the demo version. This game is hot. Basically, you have all these buttons, a million different buttons all over your computer, your broadcast equipment, and you have to make sure that you broadcast the news correctly, that people actually get it, that you censor the right stuff. And it's just so much. It's like Five Nights at Freddy's, except instead of monsters, you have the news. Just like, yeah, it's perfect analogy. It's just like that. Now, even though it seems like it's gonna be related, it's completely unrelated. This next game is called Ministry of Broadcast, where you play a little pixel hero in a platformer where you have to go through and you know, to be honest, I'm really not sure what you do, but you do a lot of platforming, possibly some puzzle solving. It just looks neat. This is my kind of stylistic game where I would just buy this without knowing too much about it. But you can see in the videos that you're kind of like jumping and platforming and investigating and dodging. This should just be a lot of fun to play, especially when that guy falls on the spikes. Next up, I never thought I would say this, but in a Steam dive probably a month ago, I made jokes about a game where you just dodged projectiles, but you were just like a shape and you just dodged a bunch of other shapes. Well, guess what? Here's another game exactly like that called Hyperdot, where you're just a shape and you dodge other shapes. This even has multiplayer. You can get a bunch of your best bros together and say, hey bro, do you just want to dodge a bunch of shapes? Hell yeah, bro, sure I do. And you guys just both, you know, get together and dodge other shapes. Hexagons, pentagons, squares, maybe even rectangles. Ugh. All right, next up after that, on the 31st of January now, we have Vampires Fall Origins, who has stolen their font directly from Diablo. Not even, just unabashedly stole. It's actually kind of comical how much they just ripped that font right out. And it would be okay if it was a different kind of game, but this is a very Diablo-like kind of a game. It's gonna be a hack and slash RPG game. And so to have stolen the font like that, you know, who knows how much of the rest of this game is actually unique, you know, but could be fun. All right, after that, we have a game with a great title called Willie Jetman, Willy Jetman, Astro Monkey's Revenge. I don't feel like they needed that whole title. I would have actually been interested if it was only called Willy Jetman. But this is a platformer. Looks most similar to me to like Terraria, that style of play and graphics, except this is a space planet, so I guess it would be more like Starbound, really. But it just looks fun. You did a jetpack, you did a gun, you did a, murder the indigenous life on whatever planet you happen to be on. Definitely worth taking a look at. After that, we have how many apples? 36 apples is the name of the game, where you collect apples and throw shit around in a, what I imagine is a small puzzle game, which is part of a larger puzzle game. It's really hard to tell with these kinds of games. It's kind of like watching the trailer for The Witness, where you don't really know what's going on, but you do know that there is actually there's layers to the puzzles, like an onion. Okay, it's like an onion, layers. That's all I can tell you. We're moving right into February the 1st, and I apologize for this in advance. This game is called Reek. You are what appears to be a factory worker with a very poor diet. And so you zoom around the levels, shooting diarrhea everywhere, because that's how you propel yourself. There you go. That's a game that someone decided had to happen. This game is full of shit. Moving into the 3rd of February, we have a game called Black Butterfly. You know I always got to include one or a couple of these horror games that look super generic. This one, instead of being just regular horror, there's zombies, and you get a gun, so that's at least slightly different than most of the Collect 7, Eyes of Amun-Ra and whatnot. So that's at least, something to look forward to if you like zombies. Could be good, but, looks like every other generic zombie game ever made. After that, we have Space Elite Force 2. I was not aware of a Space Elite Force 1, and normally I wouldn't cover a game like this because there's so many of these shooters, arrow fighters, and, that style of gameplay where it's just the side-scrolling shooters. Normally I wouldn't cover it, but this one actually supports co-op, and the graphics do actually look slightly different than most of the stuff that you would see. It almost has like an FTL graphics vibe, but it's a side-scrolling space shooter. It's just neat all around. I dig it. I would play this with a buddy. Anyone want to play this with me? After that, we have a game called Jory, Jorry, Jorry. I really am a sucker for this aesthetic. This pixel aesthetic always gets me. The game developers know exactly how to get me to buy their shit. This is actually a point-and-click horror game, which is really cool. So you're gonna be clicking around and moving around these areas with like zombies and jump scares and puzzles and stuff. I've actually seen someone play the super early like Kickstarter version. It's really neat. This game is really cool. I highly recommend you check it out. This is also a game that I covered in one of my Lost on Steams. This one is a super fast-paced mech game where you can just compare it to a Metroidvania. You're gonna get upgrades. It's that side-scrolling kind of action platformer that you know and love. But this one is a retro pixel kind of style with anime girls with big boobs if you press start and go into your inventory screen. So that's pretty much all I did. So I don't know much about the rest of the game, but ostensibly it's probably good. After that, we have a game with a name that I hate, but gameplay that is probably very good. It's called BDSM, Big Drunk Satanic Massacre, and this is going to be out on the 3rd of February. Imagine like a sci-fi Diablo hack and slash, but with guns and really, really out there kind of graphics and effects, bright in your face, lasers and monsters everywhere. It's just like a huge mess, but also looks like it probably is a ton of fun. All right, moving into February the 4th, we have a game called Mind Seize, where you have to, in a sci-fi universe, you have to save the mind of your daughter. And this is gonna be another Metroidvania game. And God, I said I'm a sucker for pixel games. I'm also a sucker for sci-fi games like this. So you're gonna have boss fights that kind of remind me a little bit of Mega Man bosses, and the level design is much more reminiscent of like Metroid or Castlevania, which is probably why they coined that term. But it just looks fun. It looks interesting, and that's really what always gets my attention is, does it look fun? And I'm like, yeah, it looks real fun. Then on February 5th, we have a game called The Yellow King, which Says it's a dark horror MMO and blah, blah, blah. None of it really matters. They don't show any gameplay of what's supposedly an MMO, and that's a bad sign. Like, first off, that's a real bad sign. But what's really cool is in their game description, they have this sweet, like, corrupted text effect. That's really the only reason I wanted to show you this game. But, you know, if you're interested, it's out on the 5th of February or whatever. We're gonna be moving days pretty quickly, moving into the 6th of February. We have a game called Scourgebringer. Now, this is, if you ever played Children of Morta, you will recognize their graphical style pretty much right away. And again, I am such a sucker for these pixel kinds of games. But this is a fast-paced roguelite, surprise, surprise there. You know, you're familiar with the genre by now. And it just looks, you know, I always say this, but it just looks fun. And again, that's my litmus test. I know I said that before, but that's always my litmus test is, does it seem fast and frantic and fun? Those are my 3 Fs, even though... Yeah, those are all Fs. For some reason, I thought one of those would be a PH. Not really important. Anyway, game just looks rad. So check that out on the 6th February. Scourgebringer. All right, up next is The Watchers. So it's so rare that we get a game like this. It is a co-op horror game. And so I'm very excited to find one of my friends who's willing to get kind of spooked and play this together, because it looks like you have co-op puzzles, you got to work together, and you're always going to be chased by these weird cult members with candles. I'm not really sure why. It may be awful. It very possibly is just an awful game, but I'm hoping not. After that, we have a game called Samozbor. It may be a Russian name because one of the E's is backwards on the picture, but not in the actual name. It looks super reminiscent of like a Metro series of games. The graphics aren't quite as nice as Metro, but the idea is there, and so it could be a lot of fun in that respect. Okay, I know that I've said this twice already, but I'm a sucker for pixel games. I'm a sucker for sci-fi. Also a sucker for post-apocalyptic, literally anything. Also, I'm a sucker for when your game says, destroy the consequences of Samozbors in the narrow corridors of the Giga Khrushchevka. That's why I feel like the game may be Russian-based, because of the name Giga Khrushchevka, which just, you know, if we're gonna be honest, feels like a Russian name. All right, after that, we got Stones Hard. Either Stones Hard or Stone Shard. I'm gonna go with probably Stone Shard. That makes a little bit more sense, but maybe it was just someone telling you that they have stones and they're not soft. Anyway, this is a turn-based RPG, and it's one of those pixel games again, which is why it caught my attention. I should really stop putting these in this video. It looks kind of like if you were to take Diablo and make it a pixel, like 2D game almost, and make it a turn-based. Okay, this is falling apart quick. It kind of reminds me of Diablo. There, that's the best I can do for you. But it does look like a good game. And so I would check that out on the 6th of February. Also, it's made by a company called Hype Train Digital. So, all right, after that, on the 7th of February, we have a puzzle game reminiscent of that series of puzzle games where they just kind of toss you into a world and you're just supposed to figure it out, called Celestial. So you wander around an area and you solve the puzzles of each of the areas. And that's it. That's the whole game. There's really not much more to it. It's just, they list it as casual, but it doesn't look particularly casual. It looks difficult, but maybe it is just a really simple short puzzle game. Either way, the aesthetic looks neat. And after that, we're gonna jump all the way to the 13th of February because there's a whole bunch of garbage coming out between those two periods that I just don't feel like is worth talking about. And this is actually our last game. It's called I Wanna Maker. If you're not familiar with the I Wanna series of games, I Wanna Be the Guy, I Wanna Be the Boshi, any of that, well, you should just go check it out on YouTube. It'll save me a lot of time. This hops on the Mario Maker train of ideas where you can design your own I Wanna kind of game levels. They're gonna be hugely, intensely punishing. They're gonna be just awful, probably in most people's cases, if they're buying this and it doesn't take off, and so you're left with just, 9 people who create the worst levels of all time. But if it does take off, I would say that this would be a fun challenge for people who are into just hating themselves, probably. But anyway, that'll be out on the 13th of February. I'm sorry that we did not cover Valentine's Day, but to make up for it, here's a surprise porn section. Just in case you don't have a date this Valentine's Day, you could play any of these following wonderful titles. I should have had this ready to go in advance. All right, you can play Gaijin Troubles, where you run around as someone who gets teleported into another world and just beats the shit out of all the other girls in school. Some part of this game has nudity and sexual content. I have no idea which part. But if that one's too, like, macro for you, you could play Spermula 1, which is a sperm racing game, where I'm assuming you race up... Yeah, you just... I'm just looking at the photos, and yeah, you just race inside of... Gotta be the first one. Oh, that's inappropriate. All right, if you just want like a titty game, here you go. Efflorescence of Lust is just a titty clicker game. There you go. Hop, that one's for you. All right, if you can read Chinese, you can play The Foreigner. It's a Chinese language nudity, but this is kind of scary. It's sexual content, nudity, gore, and violent. I won't be playing it. Oh, hell yeah, I love the porn games that have just straight up porn, like full-on porn images in their description. This is called Yokai's Secret. A bunch of monster girls wearing literally no clothes, getting inappropriately attacked. All right, but then you have your always standard anime girl switch puzzles. You could just play that one, put together some easy puzzles, and then enjoy your wank photography. This next one, Guardians of the Ashes, has the tropiest description I've ever heard. You instantly become the chosen one and have to protect the world, but I think mainly you just have to fuck weird girls in a dream world, I think is the idea there. And so there you go. You have all those choices. If you have nothing better to do this Valentine's Day, you can play any of those porn games. Or if, you're hop instead of jump, you'll be playing all of them, because that's just how you live your life and no one's gonna tell you any different. Let's wrap it up. Ready? That was a bad clap. So that's it. Those are some games you should definitely be keeping your eyes out in the next 2 weeks on Steam. Whether you're into porn, whether you're into... Wait. I almost forgot to cover the most important category of games that is going to be on Steam at all. I almost forgot to cover our solitaire games, which still baffles my fucking mind, but here we go. Fairy Tail Solitaire Witch Charms will be out on the 3rd of February. For those people who are just die-hard Solitaire fans, there you go. There's another one. This is like the 22nd and a whole lot. Let's just wrap up. Okay, so that was finally all the games for the next... Well, it's like the ones that look interesting, at least to me. For the next 2 weeks on Steam, there's a big disclaimer. Big ol' asterisk there. Hopefully you found something you may add to your wish list and go follow and comment on. That's, as I always say, that's how developers track if their game is going to get traction, if they're hitting the right audience, right? So go get active there. And as always, let me know in the comments down below if you pick up one of these games, if you follow it, if you're interested in it. That helps me gauge whether this series is useful for literally anyone, because I'm not sure anyone watches it. Certainly don't watch till this point in the video, because once the games and the porn are gone, no reason to watch, right? I mean, I agree. Anyway, as always, let me know what you think. Let me know your thought down in the comments. If you want to get a hold of me, I'm on Discord or Twitter or Instagram, whatever. Join the Discord, get involved. We have weekly games that we try to get together and play. It's a community of degenerates, basically. And if you'd like to be a part of that, you can. There's a link down below. Otherwise, till next time, everybody, burn bright.